do you immediately incite interest as a budding watch brand? Sure, you could talk about great value for money or a uniquely decorated movement, but the one thing that most potential buyers will gravitate towards is the dial. It's the component that will catch the eye scrolling through an Instagram feed, and the one that can make or break one's purchasing decision, even if all the other components are just right. Awake has been looking for its own space in the watchmaking game, and found it in Sơn Mài, Vietnamese lacquer painting. The third iteration of this exercise is Awake's new Sơn Mài Frosted Leaf, which adds another layer of complexity to the dial execution. Awake took the learnings from its previous Sơn Mài watches and is now adding layers of silver leaf. Atop a layer of black-colored lacquer, Awake's artisans first add and then sand a silver leaf, before painting it with dark pigments. To really accentuate the texture, multiple additional layers of silver are added and colored with lighter pigment, before the entire dial is sanded to unveil its intricacies. Finally, making the surface smooth, the dial makers add additional clear lacquer coats, making it some 20 in total, with Awake quoting 15 hours of work per dial. Pretty crazy. Getting into the design of the dial itself, at first glance it seems like there's not really much here to talk about. This is a good thing, and let me tell you why. First of all, I wouldn't want to see this dial marred by unnecessary lines of text. One line for the brand name, and handmade squeezed in on either side of the 6 o'clock marker, is just the right amount. And second, it's not like Awake didn't pay any attention to the little design that is there. The hands and indices almost look like renders, floating ethereally above the Sơn Mài dial. Awake achieves this effect by applying faceted polish indices and hands atop 3-dimensional blocks of lume. It's really quite a neat effect, especially after dark. It's a mostly polished affair, except for a horizontal brush along the case flanks. The lugs, for example, have small protrusions instead of neatly following the case lines, subtly evoking an angular Col de Vache style, and the wide polished bezel simply slopes down without a faceted edge, continuing to an equally shiny top part of the main case. The result matches the dial indices and is very reflective, but I do think the effect would be better with alternating surface treatments to add some defined lines. At 39.5mm diameter and 45.6 lug to lug, the Sơn Mài Frosted Leaf hits the sweet spot for a modern daily wearer, and the same can be said for its 50 meters of water resistance. In regards to thickness though, 11.8 is a little thick for a time-only watch, but this is for good reason. In speaking with the brand, we learned that the dial making process necessitates a base that's a millimeter thick. This is much more than a basic dial, and based on the pretty shots you're looking at now, I'd say that's a pretty worthy trade-off for a minimal thickness edition. Remember how I spoke about small details? The strap, or buckle more specifically, is yet another example that Awake gives a damn about good design. It's actually quite complex in shape, and I appreciate that its sides slope down to more closely align with the thickness of the strap, with a thin part that stays on top of the strap for a sleeker look. The JOUX-PERRET G101 is not the biggest of movements, with the potential of looking somewhat undersized even in a mid-sized 39mm case. Awake does something really clever to rectify this, with a laser-engraved ring that surrounds the movement and sits under the sapphire crystal. The movement itself is very simply adorned with just a customized rotor, but if you have to go with an open caseback, this is the way to do it. As for the movement itself, the G101 has established itself as not just a competitor, but the preferred option over the ETA or Sellita counterparts. It has a superior 68-hour power reserve and arguably better looks. In essence, it shares much of its design with the Miyota 9000 series, but moves production to Switzerland and upgrades key components like the regulator and mainspring. With numerous microbrands beginning to dominate the entry-level and entry-level luxury space, Awake has understandably tried to establish itself by carving out a specific niche. Sơn Mài lacquer is more certainly obscure, but Awake has fully accepted and evolved it, which should be applauded. The Sơn Mài Frosted Leaf in particular successfully continues the brand design signatures, of which the floating indices and hands are my favorite, and as its bottom line, has a pretty spectacular dial. The price is indicative of the increased attention to detail in more than just a dial, and I'd bundle in the nicer movement touches with that too, resulting in a package that punches way above its weight. It's certainly not as affordable as your entry-level microbrands, but it also offers something that no run-of-the-mill micros can, and for that, it's worthy of your attention. I'm curious, what part of a watch is most important to you? And where do you see Awake's lacquered goodness fitting into the overall watch landscape? Let us know in the comments. The Awake Sơn Mài Frosted Leaf collection is limited to 50 pieces per color and priced at €2,150. Leave a like if you enjoyed this review and subscribe for more videos like this one.